Zero and the Search for Effective Zen. Episode 32. What constitutes an enlightened teacher? You ever think that financial advice from someone whose biggest investment was Pokemon cards was a great idea? Or that fitness tips from a guy who gets winded opening a bag of chips seem reasonable? Probably not. Today, we're asking a deceptively simple question. What actually makes for an enlightened teacher? Not just any teacher, but the real deal. Someone who can actually help you cross the metaphorical river. Not someone yelling directions from a lounge chair on the shore. Let's rewind. In our investigation of Zero-Buddhism, aka what it takes for the activity of Buddhism to arise, we landed on 3 conditions. First, you need an enlightened teacher. Second, you need a clear picture of the path to the destination. And last, you need a map of the obstacles expected along the way. And lately, we've been zooming in on that first piece, putting the notion of enlightenment aside and focusing on just the teaching activity. And last time, we identified 4 ingredients needed for teaching to occur. First, you need a source of knowledge, but most importantly, one who's fully engaged. Second, you need a serious seeker, not just a curious dabbler. Third, you need an alignment between the source and the seeker. That what the source is offering is what the seeker is searching for. And last, there must be a conducive environment where this teaching activity can occur. And today, we dig deeper and ask, what makes this teacher, this source of knowledge, enlightened? In the Tevijja Sutta, the Buddha roasts the local Brahmins for preaching a path to union with Brahma, even though none of them had ever been there. It's like claiming to teach scuba diving after watching a few documentaries. And yet, right after calling them out, the Buddha himself offers to teach that very path. Wait. What? Plot twist. The Buddha doesn't actually claim to have met Brahma, but instead, he claims to understand the Brahma realm and the practice that leads to it. And in the Tevijja Sutta, the Buddha lays out 4 essential requirements for someone to be considered a teacher. First, they've actually been to the destination. They've reached the far shore, the Brahma realm. Second, they understand the near and far shores in a larger context. For example, that it's not just about ending suffering. It's how suffering fits into the teaching of something deeper, like not self. Third, they know the practice that leads to the far shore, to the Brahma realm. That they didn't just stumble upon it in a weird dream. And last, they are walking the path that leads to the far shore. They are not retired from the journey. They are actively on it. And that's the key. If we're going to take Buddhism seriously, not just as a philosophy, but as the activity that it is, then we'd better satisfy the 3 essential conditions. An enlightened teacher, a clear picture of the path, and a clear understanding of the obstacles. And if an enlightened teacher is the crux for this whole thing to even work, shouldn't we be completely clear on what that actually implies? And most importantly, that we are able to recognize one during an encounter. And so, the question for next episode: how are we to recognize an enlightened teacher?